Hello and welcome, my name is Nathan from Movement Focus. So, parkour, dance and martial arts. Why is mobility so important for these sports specifically? Now, these three sports are so movement based. Now, what I mean by that is you might have a sport such as tennis, where there are, very limited moves that you actually need compared to other sports to actually be successful and good in that sport. Simply look at a tennis match and the variety of movements compared to, a parkour line or a dancing sequence or very simply a martial art fight or sequence itself. The movements in these three sports are so diverse. Now, for parkour, you might do a plyo into like a reverse full. There are infinite amount of movements you can do in a parkour line. It's simply down to your environment and how well you can move. In martial arts, whether you're sparring with someone comes in for a straight jab, you might want to slip into a reverse heel kick, side kick, you might take it to the ground and work on the floor. Again, there are an infinite amount of responses you can do in that situation, all different movements. And with dance is a completely kind of, free way of expressing yourself through movement. However you can move like that and make it look elegant in dance. So you can move in any way you want, and so many ways in all of these sports. So why is mobility so important? Let me tell you. So there are differences between flexibility and mobility. Flexibility is very simply a passive range of motion, basically, essentially. So this is flexibility, I'm kind of standing here. How close can I get maybe my head to my knee? That is, flexibility. I'm holding the position. My joints are at this angle. I'm applying a bit of pressure and I'm holding it. Whereas mobility is very simply what I'm doing now. I'm in a flat foot squat, so I'm mobile, I'm moving. If I wanted to do a scoot, that might be doing parkour or in some types of dance. That is mobility because I'm moving through a range of motion. That is mobility. Now, the reason it's so important for these movement practices, number one, is because it can help your performance very simply. If you think about it, if you're moving, as a dancer and you have very limited range of motion, as opposed to maybe being able to move quite widely, instead of being able to step out like this and moving the spine in a nice kind of flowy way, instead, you might be able to only step out this far and move a bit like that, which is completely fine. But through increasing your mobility, it gives you more ways to express yourself, more ways to move. And it's the same with martial arts. Depending on what martial art you do, in maybe like a Shaolin style of Kung Fu, you might need to get a really deep kind of lunge in there for like the bow stance or something. With a limited range of motion, you can't do that. And it's the same with parkour. Maybe you're going for like a handspring over a rail, or you're simply, bouncing off a jump. The mobility you have in your hips and your ankles will basically decide how much how well you can make that jump, how deep you can get into the squat to increase your jump length, essentially. So the number one reason is it will increase your performance. So real quick, my Patreon link is in the description below. It offers things like monthly ebooks based around calisthenics and movement, personalized workout plans and nutrition consultation and diet analysis, all at a really discounted price just for you. So check that out, and thank you. And now the second and final reason I really want to stress is it will help reduce your risk of injury. Because with these, types of movement in these sports, you move in so many ways, there is more chance you can get overuse injury and stuff like that. And by that, I mean, in parkour, you're constantly jumping. If you don't have good technique or you overdo it, you'll get an overuse injury. You'll get tendonitis in your knee, inflammation of the tendons, simply from taking too much impact and too much stress on the tendon. The same thing happens with martial arts and with dance so much. And so by increasing your mobility and working through a range of motion with added resistance, for example, a good range of mobility for me is my squat. I come all the way down into a flat foot squat just like this. To increase my strength in this range of motion, I add a barbell on my back. and I simply do the squat for reps and stuff like that. It increases my mobility because it's adding stress at the bottom of this squat to help, increase my mobility, my range of motion, but it's also adding strength to make sure I'm strong through that range of motion. So whether you're doing a dance move where you need more stability in your ankle and range of motion in your hip, whether you're on the ground grappling and someone, maybe puts you in an awkward position for a submission, the more mobility you have, the less likely you are to get injured and the better you can perform. I know perhaps for martial arts and dance, there is quite a lot of stress on mobility training. Maybe for some people there isn't. There's so many different types of dance and martial art. But for parkour specifically, there are no huge, governing bodies, or you don't have to go to a school to learn. You simply go out and practice yourself. And I know from personal experience that many communities out there don't have a stress on mobility training. So I want to invite you all to my channel to really kind of get an idea of how to increase your mobility through some of the work I do. So yeah, feel free to check any of that out. Feel free to, I'll leave some resources in the description, some external links. Check them out, but I really want to stress, work on your mobility. It will get you so much better. You'll get injured less. I promise you that. Whether you subscribe to me and take something away from my channel or not, just please acknowledge that it is something very important and you should look into it. So yeah, until next time, peace.